Gentlemen, welcome back to the Tiege Hanley Starting a Business, Building a Brand vlog. This one, big number 157, and woo! We were scrambling this past week at Tiege Hanley. So, give you a little insight and inside information about what sort of Tiege Hanley has been dealing with. So last week we were having a meeting talking a little bit about Black Friday and what we're going to do in terms of promotion and all that. And we start talking about what days we're going to do what, and somebody brought up the question of inventory and what's our inventory look like. Well, apparently there was a miscalculation, and not only was there a miscalculation on our part, there was a miscalculation on the lab that makes Tiege Hanley's part. Whenever we place an order for product with our labs, they basically give us like a window, like 4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever, and they give us an expected delivery date. Well, because it's the end of the year and because all these different companies that these manufacturers work for are throwing orders in, they gave us one date, but then they came back to us and say, oh yeah, we were wrong. It's going to be like 4 weeks later than we anticipated. Now, this in and of itself, 4 weeks shouldn't have been like a big deal. But because we had like a huge like sales spike and our projections were off slightly, it was a disastrous thing. It could have been disastrous. We would have ran out of product and not gotten new product for like a few weeks if all of the things sort of happened worst case scenario. And so we sort of identified this, and it was like level 10, like we have to figure this out. Because the one thing that we cannot do as a business and as a company is run out of product, because we are a subscription service. And if you, the customer, are expecting to get your shipment of Tiege Hanley, in and you're like just like totally dialed in and you've got your customized delivery schedule all like rocking, for you to miss out or not to get something for a few weeks, like that totally is not good on many, many levels. But I got to hand it to the team. I got to hand it to everybody. Every single person on the team stepped up in a major way. Now, unfortunately, it is going to cost Tiege Hanley some extra money, thousands of dollars, because we are having to pay the lab overtime, basically their workers overtime, in order to fill our products. One of the other things that happens when Tiege Hanley gets an order, or makes an order, it has to basically hang out and chill for a certain amount of time just to make sure that all of the microbial tests come back so that we know that we're sending, amazingly pure, clean product that don't have any like bacteria or anything like that. It was like freak out level 12 at Tiege Hanley. Actually, I freaked out level 12. Everybody else handled it in stride and worked it out. And I got to hand it to everybody at HQ. They did an amazing job and handled something, a potentially very detrimental problem. They handled it and we figured it out. And the good news is that now we've got a better process and system in place in terms of forecasting and measuring our inventory levels. And I've mentioned this on many occasions before, but one of the issues when you do have a business like Tiege Hanley that is a subscription, when you have like a sales spike or anything that sort of throws off the projections, it can throw like a major monkey wrench. Now, of course, everybody's like, yo, this is an amazing problem to have. You're busier, you're doing great. But when you're on a subscription, your customers have to get their product. And so, forecasting is challenging when you've got a subscription-based business that is a rolling tidal wave of inventory requirements. I mean, we're shipping out a ton of Tiege Hanley, thousands and thousands and thousands of orders every single month. And so the requirements are huge. And when you grow at a pretty substantial rate, that you've got to, it's hard is what I'm saying. It's hard to know how much inventory you're going to need, but I think the bottom line is this taught us a very valuable lesson. There was one other time in our history where we had a big issue, right? And that was when, for those of you who've been around a while, the fishy smelling PM. We got this PM formula and we're like, yo, okay. And we're using it and some of our customers got it and people are like, it kind of has a fishy smell. And we're like, fishy smell, what? and we start opening these different batches, and we're like, crap, it does have a fishy smell. And so like we had to, you know, quarantine that specific batch. And the beautiful thing about, or I should say the fortunate thing about doing large quantity orders when it comes to skincare or anything like this is that you have different batches. So it was one batch out of like 5 batches that had this marine collagen ingredient that was wrong. Or it wasn't wrong. It wasn't bad or dangerous. It just had a fishier odor because of the place that they got this specific ingredient. That's one of the things that Tiege Hanley is constantly working on, is sourcing of the various ingredients. You can't imagine how difficult it is to get a consistent product. Like you think like, oh, marine collagen's marine collagen, menthol is menthol. Like you think that, right? Well, that's absolutely the furthest thing from the truth that we have found out as a company. And it's the quality and the integrity of our ingredients that make the finished product of Tiege Hanley, all the different products, so amazing. But when one product or one ingredient is off, it like can jack up the whole entire batch. And that was the case with the marine collagen. And so when we had that issue, it was a scary, scary situation, because nothing is fast. When it comes to manufacturing skincare products, it's not like, oh my gosh, we're out, and you call and a week later you've got product. You've got to make sure that all of the processes and pieces are in place. Make sure that you've got the packaging first. And so like packaging is a whole nother like complex thing, how we're ordering it and it's getting manufactured and it's shipping here, and whether or not we ship it via boat or via like a plane. There's all sorts of logistical issues that arise when you're doing a company or a product like Tiege Hanley. And all of the pieces have to be coordinated, all of the pieces have to be like working together. And when it's smooth, it's great. But when one piece in the puzzle gets out of whack, everything sort of explodes. And so we were in the process of a mini internal explosion, but thankfully we worked it out. We're in the process of working it out, and we're going to be okay. And our customers are going to get their product and all that good stuff, and everything is right in the skincare universe. But it was touch and go there for a second, and it was scary. But you know, you got a few different options when things like that happen. You can either be like, oh my God, and just like run around and scream like I do. I do. Or you can get down to business, figure it out, and solve problems. And that's one of the things that when I was talking to Kelly, because Kelly was updating Rob and I throughout the day on Friday and this weekend up until like Monday or Tuesday, until we knew like, okay, like we're good. He was updating it, and I was asking him questions. I'm like, what happened? What, like, because being here in Atlanta, I don't have the hands-on that, you know, they have up in Chicago. And so I was asking him like, what's going on? He's like, Aaron, he's like, I can either figure out what happened, or I can solve the problem. And when he said that, it was a light bulb went off. It was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. Regardless, it doesn't matter how it happened. It doesn't matter how things got off. I mean, technically it does, so that it doesn't happen again. Identifying like what happened, and we have. But at that moment, when you're in it, when you're in the midst of a level 10 potential crisis for your business, you got two options. You can point fingers, you can seek or look for reasons of why it happened, or you can figure out a solution. And there were a lot of phone calls, there were a lot of money, there were a lot of you know, conversations. We figured it out. So big thumbs up for Team Tiege. Great job, and congratulations to you for not being mad because your products are not being shipped. So potentially rough start to the week, but it worked out, and we're really excited for Black Friday and Thanksgiving, even though it's all coming early this year, which is crazy. But now let's get to some of your questions. Nomi Somi has an interesting question. He says, I've been researching for the past 2 years about starting my own natural hair care company. The fact that you've been researching for 2 years, I'm a little curious about why it's taking you 2 years. Anyway, the more I look into it, the more it convinces me not to pursue it. The market seems to be crowded for it to be worth it. Is it wise to continue into it even though my chances of creating a profitable business are very slim? The answer, Nomi Somi, are you probably shouldn't pursue it. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you are giving yourself permission to fail like before you get out of the gate. You are letting the fact that there are other people in the industry, or there are other people doing it, or you're saying that the market is crowded. To be honest, I don't know of a ton of natural hair companies, and at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. As long as you've got a great product and you can figure out the marketing component, you can win. It doesn't matter. You can beat ass. Like, there are a lot of skincare companies out there, you know, but it didn't stop Tiege Hanley from being like, yo, you know, we're coming to town and we're going to dominate and kick ass. We came up with a different system. We came up with the level 1, 2, and 3 system, which nobody else was doing at the time. And we decided to come up with better products than they did and charge a less expensive price for, you know, super high quality products. And so your problem is you're letting the fact that there are other people in there and you don't think it's going to be easy dissuade you from actually going forward and moving forward. And so if that's your mindset, you probably shouldn't do it, because you won't be successful. Joe Reese has a business question. He says, hi Aaron, enjoying the vlog. For the new business I'm starting, being knowledgeable about fashion would go a long way. In the past, it hasn't been something that I've taken much interest in. However, I feel that now it is something I would like to get into. For someone with very limited fashion knowledge, what would your advice be to start to learn about it? So this is a great question. So in terms of like style and fashion, when I started my image consulting business, I didn't know a whole lot about it. What I did was I went and I talked to tailors, I went into stores, I started doing research. Now when I started my business, there was very little information online, but now you don't even have to leave your computer. You can do an incredible amount of research and learn crazy amounts of things just by, you know, consuming content. There are a lot of great, incredible, you know, blogs out there still. If you're going into something that's a little bit more high end, my friend Raphael has the Gentleman's Gazette. He talks all about like dandy, sort of upper class, I want to call it, style. But there are a lot of street fashion and streetwear vlogs. Like, there's information out there. You just need to start digging in. And at the end of the day, you know, you don't need to go to school. You don't need any specific degree. You just need to get educated enough so that you feel confident and comfortable giving advice or directing your business in the way that it needs to go. And so, you know, just get out there, experience it, immerse yourself as much as you can on YouTube, on Reddit, on just these different vlogs, and you'll be okay. So Gary Hernandez, Self-Defense and Survival, has a question that touches close to home. He says, hey Alpha, my question is, I may have to downsize my building where I have my business because of a lack of money coming in. First part of that is, it scares me a little because I feel I'm failing as a business owner. Second part is that my clients will feel that I'm failing as a business. It's a martial arts school, for those of you who don't know. The last part is what to do with the extra equipment I'm not able to fit into a smaller place. Keep it or sell it. I know that you filed bankruptcy, but have you ever had to downsize any of your businesses? So this is a great question, and you know, it's a reality. I know that it's something that you have to face head on. This isn't something that you can, you know, sort of stick your head in the sand. If you don't have the revenue coming in and you've got all this money, these expenses going out, you really need to identify what expenses can be sort of modified or changed in order to give yourself a chance of survival and digging yourself out of this hole. And so I give our friend an incredible amount of credit for identifying the fact that it's time to get a smaller space, because this is something that's very, very difficult. Emotionally, you feel like you're failing, but at the end of the day, what's harder than feeling like you're failing is having the weight of a lot of expenses over or on your shoulders. When I bankrupted, or when I filed bankruptcy, I had like just a ton of monthly overhead and expenses, and I didn't keep it alive. It was something where I had to shut the entire business down, which was heartbreaking. But the thing that I felt amazing about was the fact that I was relieved I didn't have this overhead, and I got to kind of start fresh. But for our friend who doesn't want to shut the business down, but just needs to get sort of his expenses under control, I definitely recommend not shutting it down, but getting a smaller space. You know, this is something that could be a benefit, and honestly just something that's incredibly positive for your business. Because without that overhead, without that excess money going out, you know, you're going to be able to get more creative, and you're going to be able to think more freely because you're not so worried about this super expensive rent or mortgage that you've got to pay. Will your current members think that, uh-oh, you know, something might not be right? You know, probably. They probably will. But at the end of the day, they're in business with you, or they use you, and they love your training and your teaching, and so they just want you to stick around. And so if you even needed to increase their fees a little bit, I'll bet they would be, you know, open to that as well. There's always a way to spin something for the positive. And so figuring out what the positive spin, positive story, what is the benefit of having a smaller, more intimate space, I think is definitely something you need to look into. In terms of the excess equipment that you can't fit, I'd sell it, right? It is extra cash in your pocket, and at the end of the day, when you get in a better financial position, if you need to sort of get a bigger space again, you can. I think what you'll probably find is that you're going to be a lot more effective and efficient with the space that you have. And I think one of the mistakes that a lot of entrepreneurs get into is that they think that they need a really big space, or they think they need a really nice office, or they think they need a lot of stuff, when the truth is you need to keep your overhead as manageable as possible, because at the end of the day, it's a business and you need to be profitable. And I personally would rather have an extra 10 grand in the bank than a larger space just because it strokes my ego a little bit. Unless you need that space, I say keep the expenses as low as possible. I promised myself that I would never get into a bad financial position again. And so, you know, most everything I do from a business standpoint is I pay for everything up front. I know that I could get terms, I know that I could, you know, do certain things, but for me, I like not having debt. And for me, that's freeing. Not having the worry of, you know, overhead and expenses every month is something that has been very freeing for me, and something that I would highly recommend. If you are starting a business, keep your expenses as small as possible. And this will make everything more exciting. This will make making a profit easier. It's just a better situation to be in my opinion, if you can do it. But sometimes you got to take on debt in order to grow, expand, and make an incredible business. And that, gentlemen, is where I am going to wrap it up. Got a lot of things I got to work on to get ready for Black Friday and Thanksgiving and all that good stuff. But down in the comments, if I didn't get to your business question this time, please, down in the comments, start your question or comment with business question, and I'll make sure to get to some next week. I will also update you on the current state of Tiege Hanley affairs. Guys, you know this as well as I do, but we love you as much, if not more, than our double monk strap shoes. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great Thanksgiving, and I'll see you next week.